knighted by Geralt of Rivia, master of the witchering trade. Behold, as the last gasps of life seep from the beast.
The Witcher 3 is a game that needs no introduction at this point. It's gone down in the annals of gaming history as one of the greatest games ever made. When it first launched in 2015, it set the standards for storytelling and writing in video games, open worlds, choice and consequence mechanics, side quests, and so much more. In May, CD Projekt RED's masterpiece will be 8 years old, and yet time hasn't dimmed any of its strengths, even today. It's hard to think of many games that have been able to accomplish what The Witcher 3 has, on the level and scale that it did. So this is obviously not a review of The Witcher 3, because this is a rare example of a game that honestly doesn't need a review at this point. Everyone knows how good it is, and everyone knows whether its strengths resonate with what they want in their games. However, CD Projekt RED has now upgraded the game for current-gen consoles and PC with a free update, one that introduces a number of improvements and new features. So the question is, how does the update fare? The answer is unsurprising. It's an excellent upgrade that further polishes what is already an absolute gem of a game. The Witcher 3 was already spectacular. Now, it's even better.
Enough. Get down.
With a flip?
What do you think? All right. Take off the blindfold.
The most obvious bump that the game has received is, of course, on the visuals front, and the work done by CD Projekt RED here is impressive. The Witcher 3 was one of the best looking games ever made when it first launched. So when you first look at it running on modern hardware, your mind might play tricks on you and tell you it isn't that much of an improvement, because of how good you remember the original looking. Pit it directly with the game running on a PS4 or an Xbox One though, and the differences become much more apparent. The level of detail in the environments, the gorgeous lighting, the density of the foliage, the draw distances, and other areas that far keener eyes than mine will notice more easily have seen major improvements, making the game pop that much more. Seriously, it looks good enough to pass for a freshly released current-gen title rather than a remaster of a 7.5-year-old game. On PS5 and Xbox Series X, The Witcher 3 also lets you pick between two modes. Ray Tracing mode restricts the frame rate to 30 FPS, but implements ray trace shadows, lighting, and reflections. Performance mode, on the other hand, removes all of the ray tracing effects, but kicks the frame rate up to 60 FPS. This will ultimately be a matter of preference, as it often is, but I have always preferred better performance over prettier visuals, so as far as I'm concerned, performance mode is the way to go. Moment-to-moment combat feels much smoother at 60 FPS, and even without ray tracing effects, the game still looks absolutely stunning. So personally, I didn't think the visual quality took too much of a hit. Ray tracing mode does deserve props as well, and there's no denying that the game does look better, if not radically so. With reflections in bodies of water and shiny surfaces, more authentic lighting of scenes and locations, and other graphical enhancements that go hand in hand with the implementation of ray tracing. That said, the frame rate tends to be a little less inconsistent in this mode, and can get a little choppy in the really dense locations of hectic combat encounters. Photo mode enthusiasts will likely get plenty of use out of the ray tracing option though, and yes, The Witcher 3 does have a photo mode now. At long last. And though it's not as full-featured as what you'd find in the likes of Spider-Man or Horizon, it's still a solid addition. Another one of this free update's headlining additions is a small chunk of new content. Essentially, a quest with new, exclusive loot tied to it that's inspired by Netflix's The Witcher series. The new content dropped isn't particularly meaty, though it's still worth checking out. The new side quest is an engaging and well-written one, and finally makes use of an area of the map in Velen that was curiously empty in the base game. The rewards, meanwhile, are a nice bonus as well. It's neat seeing The Witcher 3's Geralt dressed up as Henry Cavill's Geralt, even if you're just doing it for quick snaps in photo mode. Beyond that, the update also brings a number of quality of life improvements and additions of small gameplay refinements. Casting signs is much easier now, with the game allowing you to quick cast them without having to go into the radial menu every single time. The new default camera angle is also a much better perspective for the game, It's much more of a zoomed-in over-the-shoulder camera, which lends the game much more of a cinematic flair. The HUD is also more customizable, so you can take all of that clutter off your screen if you want exploration to be more diegetic. While there are a number of smaller but appreciated little add-ons, such as finally being able to pet Roach, or a couple of new fast travel markers here and there to make getting around the world even more convenient, of course, thanks to the new console's SSDs, The Witcher 3 also boasts vastly improved loading times, ironing out one of its most frustrating issues on older consoles.
Can't get used to the way you knights talk, especially how you switch back and forth between flowery and, well, near normal.
We are knights errant, in the service of her gracious magnificence.
In 7.5 years, I have played through The Witcher 3 multiple times, and clocked in several hundred hours into the game across different platforms, and yet, jumping back into its brutal and beautiful world, I still find myself transfixed. Even being as familiar with its story as I am, even knowing its intricate web of choice and consequence mechanics like the back of my hand, even having played through its best side quests more times than I can count, I still find myself hanging on every second, seeping in the brilliance of its world and narrative. The Witcher 3 is a brilliant game, and its brilliance hasn't been dimmed by the passage of time in the slightest. In fact, thanks to CD Projekt RED's excellent remastering efforts and a new coat of polish, it's an even better game than it's ever been in the past. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.